Okay, everyone, let's grab our seats. It's officially 8:30 p.m. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome home. All right, let's get it quiet down. What do I have to announce? Anything good? Huh? Let's introduce the world's best chairperson, Karen. Come up here. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Hello, everybody. Welcome home. My name's Kara, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. Hello, everybody. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. and speaker at 8:30 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name?
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm here to support my son, Nick.
Hey. Welcome! Woohoo!
Hi, my name is Kelsey. I'm an alcoholic. This is my first time at this meeting.
Welcome! Welcome, Scott. In the purple?
Hi, I'm Liz. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Liz. Welcome.
One more.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Torie, and I'm just here tonight to support my sister.
Yay! The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with the working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Our sister group is a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. just up the street at Salem UCC Church, 186 East Court Street, Doylestown. Coffee is on at 6:15. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purpose of big books and CDs to help those who cannot afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations. All CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, PA, and our Facebook group. Subscribe and share. You can find our speakers there. Join our Facebook page to keep informed and share upcoming events and meetings. Now I would like to invite my good friend Nick to come up, and he's going to read Just for Today Prayer of Recovery. Let's give Nick a warm welcome.
My name's Nick. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome home. The Just for Today Prayer of Recovery. Just for today, I'll be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And now with that, I have Scott to come up and read the AA preamble.
Hi, Scott, alcoholic. This is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Now JJ is going to come up and read the 12 steps.
My name is JJ. I'm an alcoholic. These are the 12 steps of recovery. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. With that, Carol will come up and introduce our speaker.
The seventh tradition states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big book CDs, events and workshops, etc. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting and avoid distractions. Now, I would like to introduce the speaker. As a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group, I'd like to invite Torie. She came all the way from Towson, Maryland. She drove 2 hours. So let's give her a warm welcome, y'all.
Hey everyone, my name's Torie. I'm an alcoholic. Hey, Torie. Hello. Can you guys hear me okay? Alright, awesome. Alright, so my sobriety date is, I'm going to put my phone here and keep time because I was told 52 minutes. And I want to come back, y'all, so I'm going to really follow this 52-minute thing. My name's Torie. I'm an alcoholic, and I'm super grateful to be here. Thank you so much, the group, for having me and inviting me out. I am from Towson, Maryland. And I like to, sometimes people ask where I'm from, and I say Baltimore, Maryland, because I think it makes me sound like cool or hard, right? But like in reality, I am from Towson, Maryland. Like it is not that exciting. Your town is way cuter, I'll be honest. And my sobriety date is July 25th of 2017. I have a sponsor. Her name is Holly. She lives in the beautiful and amazing Sunshine State of Florida. And she has a sponsor, who has a sponsor, who has a sponsor, and I sponsor women, and one of them is here with me tonight, so she'll make sure that I stay honest and stick to my story. And they sponsor women, and they sponsor women, and I say all that to simply express to you all that that keeps me smack dab in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is where someone like me needs to be at all times. Because someone like me, left to my own devices for too long, I will have some really questionable thoughts going on up in my mind that I think are really great ideas, and then I will act accordingly, only to find out that it creates nothing but pure pain for myself and my loved ones, and then as a result, I just become this walking vessel of pain. Right? And that's kind of what led me here to all of you, and I am so eternally grateful, even though it did not feel that way when I first got here. Right. I do have a home group. It is 6th day. It meets on Saturday nights at 8:30 in Towson. So if you ever are not at your home group and find yourself in the Towson area, please come join us. I think my home group's the best home group, but my sponsor also always taught me that if you don't think your home group is the best home group, then you should find a different home group. So I hope that you all feel about your group the way that I feel about mine. And the energy here and just everything is amazing and super sweet and loving, and I'm just super grateful. So just again, thank you. And I share all those things with you to simply say that Alcoholics Anonymous works. right? I'll also share with you guys, there's a lot of things that I love in my life, right? I love the color pink, hence my hair, and the only time the color pink is any other color besides pink, I should say, is accepted into my life or in my wardrobe is if it is teal for the Miami Dolphins. And if there was a 12-step program for the Miami Dolphins in football, I know you're shaking your head. It's okay. It's okay. I shake my head and question myself about it a lot too. But I should probably be a part of it, but I'm not really ready to bring God into that part of my life yet, so it's okay. We'll get there maybe one day. Who knows? I love dogs. I brought my dogs actually down here with me. They're hanging out in the hotel right now, and I love cupcakes. I love glitter. I colored my big book in glitter because I thought it could use some sparkle. And I love alcohol. I love the condiments that come along with alcohol. And the one thing I love more than any of those things, I will tell you, is Alcoholics Anonymous. And I was sharing with my new friend that I met at the meeting here before this began that, you know, I always find when I get asked to share my story challenging the longer I stick around here. And this is by no means Anniversaries Anonymous. This is very truly, in the purest sense, Alcoholics Anonymous. But I think what I'm trying to say when I express that with you all is that I have more life experiences that prove that this program and this way of living works the longer I stick around here. And so when I'm given a time period to share with you all the power of this program and how much I love this program and how amazing this program is, it feels challenging because there's so many experiences I want to share with you all. So that's why I say a prayer before I walked in here with my sponsee, and I say a prayer while I was sitting in my seat, because whatever comes out of my mouth, I'm just the vessel, and these are the experiences that my higher power feels that you all need to hear. So I hope there's some good ones, because I'm just excited, as you all hopefully are, to hear what these experiences are that my higher power chose to share with you all this evening. And the crazy thing is, right, I'm going to qualify myself here, is the longer I stick around, my childhood looks better and better. The more I do the work in Alcoholics Anonymous, my childhood looks better and better. When I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I thought that, you know, I remember sitting in outpatient rehab, and I know rehab is not a part of everyone's story. It happens to be a part of mine, though. And I remember sitting there, and they were about to bring my mom in for family therapy, and they said, okay, what do you want to get out of this? And I said, that's very easy. She needs to change. And they looked at me and they said, oh, honey, this is not how that works, right? But I share all that with you because growing up, I used to think, right, and I would share this story about how my mom was late to get me on the first day of preschool, and that's when my abandonment issues began. And I joke about that with her today, but all these feelings I come into Alcoholics Anonymous with, and I think my childhood is just this, like, horrid mess of a thing. But in reality, looking back today, knowing what I know about myself as a result of these 12 steps in this program, my childhood was beautiful. I had a loving family. I still do. I come from a family with a mom and a dad and a little brother, and my little brother is my absolute best friend in this whole world. He always has been. And you know, I say the best way I can describe, though, right, how I felt growing up is when I look at step 1 of this program, and it says we admit that we're powerless over alcohol and that our lives are unmanageable. My life was unmanageable from the second I came out of the womb on September 8th of 1994, right? And I share all that with you because truly these bedevilments that our book talks about on page 52, right, when it says that I'm filled with fear and I have a trouble with personal relationships and you know, and it just goes on and on and on to describe all these different things that are just tormenting me to my soul. I felt that right from the jump. Which is why when I had that first drink, that effect was so powerful, that sensation was so elusive that it became my solution to everything. Because, you know, I go through life and I have these experiences, right? Like, for instance, in pre-K, when I thought that the classroom toys were Torie's toys, and that all the Barbies in the class were mine, and I didn't want to share them with anybody else. And so the teacher was constantly calling my mother to talk about how selfish I was and that I had a hard time sharing, and I just really didn't see the issue with that, right? And I remember then touring my soon-to-be elementary school, and I'm walking down the hallway, I'll never forget this, with my mom and the tour guide. And my mom's talking to the employee of the school, and I'm walking down the hall, and I'm peeking into the classrooms, and I see within these classrooms really bright colored walls with kids smiling and lots of laughter, and they're interacting with each other and they seem to be having fun. So what I say to my mom in the next moment is, Mom, I am not going here. And she says, well then, Torie, where do you think you're going to go to school? And I said, Mom, I don't know where I'm going to go to school, but I'm not going here. Because the real reason, right, is because I was filled with fear. I didn't know how to interact with what seemed like such effortless behavior for those children. I didn't know how to talk to other kids. I didn't know how to hang out with other kids. Because that fear, that pit in my stomach, that something I just seemed to have been born with. But I never knew what that something was. I just felt that everybody had that something deep within them that felt like, you know, your stomach is just in knots 24/7. And, you know, there's a lot of things that I shared with you all that I love in my life. You know, I can't tell you about the first time or the last time where I was like, oh my goodness, the Miami Dolphins, I'm all in. Or I can't tell you about the first or the last time when I decided that pink was my power color and that I love dogs. But I can tell you all about the first and the last time that I drank in such vivid detail as if it happened 5 seconds ago. You know, the book talks about these spiritual experiences and these spiritual awakenings, and really what they are is just this change. And when I had that first drink, it truly was a spiritual experience for me because something changed within me. And I will share with you all, too, that the first thing I ever became addicted to in any sense of the word was other people's approval of me. And that worked and that did its job until it didn't work and do its job anymore, and that's when alcohol stepped in. And what something like that looks like for me, right, is like I remember being in middle school and we get our schedules the first day of school and I see that I'm placed in a second math class because I'm behind in math according to my teachers. And I was so ashamed and so embarrassed and filled with such fear that I was fully prepared to come up with this lie to all of my friends that I was in some make-believe class, even though I knew there was no way I was going to be able to hold up this lie for the entire school year. I was well prepared to somehow do it to the best of my ability. Only to come to find out 2 minutes later, after I concocted this whole plan very quickly, that half of my friend group was in the same second math class. And all of a sudden, I didn't feel the need to have to come up with this lie or share my grand plan of this make-believe class that I was placed in. Because since they were in it and I was in it, then it must be okay. Right? But so my first drink looks like something along the lines of this. I'm in 11th grade and it's a basketball-themed night school dance. I borrow a Washington Wizards jersey from a kid above me in the school, so I naturally think like I'm really cool. And my best friend and I at the time make an agreement that we're going to have 3 shots and that's it. 3 sounded like a really great number, having never drank before. And 3 stayed a really great number, you see, until I had shot number 2. Because what happened at shot number 1 was this. That something, that pit in my stomach that I was describing to you all, the best visual that I can provide you with for that is as if like when you're swimming in the ocean, you know, and a wave comes and it crashes upon you, like out of nowhere, and so you got to come up real fast and catch your breath super quick. Well, I felt like my whole life I kept getting knocked down by these waves. I didn't have time to come up and catch my breath, and all of a sudden I take that first shot, and I don't have this feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm so much better than you. Or, oh my goodness, y'all should be so grateful I'm here. And I certainly didn't think that I was going to be the next WNBA star, because I can tell you one thing I learned is I'm a much better spectator than I am of a participant of sports, right? But what I did feel when I took that first drink was this feeling of I could breathe, was this feeling of that I'm okay. I was okay with Torie. And for the first time in my life, I felt as if my head and my feet and my heart were all in the same place at the same time. So I have shot number 2, right? And then I realized that, oh my goodness, I only have 1 shot left in this agreement with my friend, and so I start to panic, right? And that phenomenon of craving starts to kick in, and the phenomenon of craving looks like this for me, right? Oh my goodness, well, okay, I gotta keep this feeling, I just wanna breathe. I'm not asking too much to wanna just breathe, but I don't want my friend to get mad at me because that's gonna make school really uncomfortable on Monday. Well, maybe when I go to the bathroom, I could sneak the alcohol, but maybe when she goes to the bathroom, I could just drink it really fast, right? And that's how, just as fast as it took me to explain those thoughts to you, that's how fast they were running through my mind. But see, what happens is I have these thoughts for the rest of the night, whereas my friend 3 stayed a great number. It never changed. She went to the dance, she hung out with our friends, she made new friends, she danced and partied, took cute pictures, and she had a grand old time. And that's what I like to say is the difference between me and what I call the earthlings in my life. But see, I made a decision in that moment. I made a decision that night that anytime I had the chance to drink, I was going to, because I associated drinking with being able to breathe. I associated drinking as my solution, and that that wasn't me asking too much of the world to just want to breathe. Never was my intention to overshoot the mark. Never was my intention to become a vessel for pain. I just wanted to breathe. But someone like me who lives with this disease that I don't realize I'm living with, I do end up missing the mark. And I miss the mark a little bit more and a little bit more each and every time, to the point where I am landing on some planet. I don't know where the planet is. I don't know what the planet is. I don't want to be on this planet. There is no pink. There is no glitter. There's no Miami Dolphins. There's no dogs, cupcake. There is nothing there. But somehow I keep ending up there, and I don't want to. And that feeling inside, right, that something, that pit within me, right, that when I would take that drink, it would allow me to breathe. It felt as if like that drink, you know, it just like parted the seas and it held the water up from continuing to crash down internally. I could start to feel the alcohol not working anymore. I could start to feel it was if any moment, right, the pressure was just building up, and it was just a matter of time before those walls came crashing down, and it was like a tsunami was just released within me. But see, I don't realize what I suffer from. And so things like this start to happen in my life, right, because I have this idea, right, this whole idea of insanity that this program teaches us about. For me, insanity is the thing that I have these thoughts that aren't true, but I believe them to be true, and so then I act accordingly. And my thoughts are something like this time it'll be different. That was just a practice run. Tomorrow I mean business. If these people experienced what I experienced in life, they would be drinking the way that I am too. Because I used to think that this was a disease measured off of consequences. This was a disease measured off of things that happened to you in life, right? If your parents got divorced, if your family lost their childhood home to foreclosure, if you had a boyfriend in federal prison, if you were sexually assaulted, you would be doing what I'm doing too. Those things just became my golden tickets. But guess what? I've walked through things in sobriety that are just as challenging, if not more challenging than what I just explained to you. And I haven't had a need or a desire to pick up a drink or any external substances. If anything, my faith in a higher power and my ability to live life has deepened. And I will get into that when I get sober. I think the greatest delusion that this program helped me to smash was the delusion that every time I was picking up that drink, that I consciously was making that decision, that I just changed my mind, right? Because I thought towards the end that Torie just had a really poor moral compass, that somewhere along the lines my compass just got nicked off the ticker just a little bit too far, and I just was just not right there on the beam. So I would pay with my dreams. You know, the idea of being a mom seemed really cool to me one day, right? I'm not in a relationship at the time, but I'm thinking being a mom could be cool one day. And then I realized, well, that means you have to be sober for 9 months. And I thought, well, that sounds horrible. So guess what? We will just put that dream right out the window. Just as fast as I shared that all with you, that's how fast that happened. This was not over the course of a week or a month or years that I had to really sit and think about it. It was like it was nothing for me to say, here, take the dream. There was one moment in particular, right, where I had a friend, the friend that I had that agreement with of 3 shots, and she came to me because she was concerned about me, and I couldn't stand that she was concerned about me because I couldn't care about myself, and I hated that there were people in my life that still cared about me. And she basically gave me that ultimatum, right? Torie, it's either our friendship or I'm going to tell you, I guess you're going to keep doing what you're doing. And I hate saying this to you all, but it is the truth, that I felt freedom in that moment, or what I thought was freedom, when she gave me that ultimatum, because it was like nothing for me to choose my lifestyle and the drink over that friendship of 15 years. Our families had gone to Mexico together, the whole 9 yards, and that's just how it was. And I'll never forget the time where I was sitting in my driveway so drunk, about to put more into my system, and I'm sitting there and I have this thought, Torie, if you put this into your body right now, your heart could give out and die. And my next thought was, so what? And I want you all to know it was not because I was actively seeking death. I was willing to pay the price of my life. Not to use how I wanted to, but to use how I felt like I needed to. Because this other part of the insanity piece is thought, right, is that if I have a few drinks, that it'll just calm me down. But for someone like me, those few drinks, it doesn't just calm me down. Those few drinks, it triggers the phenomenon of craving because I have this abnormal reaction that I'm not aware of. And so I reach out to my cousins one day because I had tried on my own, because I feel and I am convinced that somewhere deep down within me I should have this power. I don't know what it is that I'm trying to change in my life, but whatever it is that needs to change, I should have this power. And so I try and chase it to the gates of practically insanity, almost death, to find this power on my own, because the idea of asking for help is the worst thing that could possibly ever happen. I even made a sticker chart for myself, you guys, okay? Because I believe that I really respond well to positive reinforcement. And my sticker chart said, Torie, if you don't drink for 20 minutes, then you get a sticker. And when you earn 10 stickers, then you can go and get your nails done, or you can get a new pair of shoes. Sticker chart looked great, but I didn't earn a single sticker. I just went and got my nails done and bought the new pair of shoes really drunk, right? And my grandmother, I love my grandmother so much, and her name is Bibi, and I know a lot of people, when you see bumblebees, they're like, get them away from me, right? But I love them, and I want them all around me because they're like love letters from the universe. And the garden inside over here in the other room, I look down and there's like a stone with a bumblebee on it, and my heart just instantly felt calm. And I never would want to break a promise to my grandmother. And so I would start saying these things at night, like, Bibi, I promise you tomorrow, I'm not going to do this tomorrow. I didn't know what this was, but I promise you, Bibi, I'm not going to do it. And if you would have hooked me up to a lie detector in that moment, I'm telling y'all, I meant it. But again, the next morning, I just changed my mind. So that night I would say, Bibi, all right, for real, that was a fluke. I don't know what happened there, but for real, tomorrow we're not going to do this. And I would do it again. So this moment happens, right, where I pick up the phone and I call my cousins. And I say to my cousins, please help me. I don't know what I'm asking for help with. I just say, please help me. I honestly instantly regretted asking them for help the second I sent the message. But what this book talks about, what this program teaches me, is that it's all about these brief windows of willingness, followed by a little bit of action. And so my cousins come and they say this, Torie, you haven't seen me outdoors recently. Why not we go for a ride and get some fresh air? And my thought is, I know I'm far gone, but I'm not that far gone. Why not you just tell me you're putting me in the car and you're going to take me to rehab, right? And that's where they took me. They took me to rehab. And see, the thing is that with my disease has this thing called the forgetter. My disease also talks to me in my own voice. So things get very confusing very quickly. And so I'm there for 3 days, and you know how our big book talks about this whole idea of hoping against hope it's not true? Or when it talks about our friend Fred, I think it's Fred. I mean, I know the book, but I don't like to know the book like that. Who's just in the hospital because of a bad case of jitters, not because of the alcoholism. Well, my thought was this. My thought was, Torie, I'm only here because you need a place to sleep at night. You need a bed, and the rehab is giving you a bed, so here you go. Here is your bed, and this is why you're here. Not because I have a problem with alcohol. And then a few days later, after I'm there, I have this idea where I'm like, you know what, this is a little extreme. You've always been a bit of an extremist. You know, so maybe it's just time we leave. I've just about had enough of this place. I really don't want to be here. Quite frankly, I miss my dogs. And when I asked the doctor when I'm going home, because I miss my dogs, he didn't tell me. So I think I'm going to go home. I think I'm going to go home. And I want you all to know that the next decision I made, the next action I took, I was very consciously aware of what I was doing. I picked up the phone and I called my mom. I was about to use the love my mom has for me as a weapon against her, because my mom would have come to get me. Any other family member, they would have hung that phone up on me so fast, I'm not even kidding. My one cousin actually told me she wanted me to stay there longer, and I hung up on her. So she was definitely not at the top of my list when I was calling someone to come get me. And my mom was going to come get me, and I went into my room to pack up my things, and as I'm in my room, right, there's a window that overlooks the front entrance of the building where I am, and I'm packing up my things, and I look out this window, and I'm seeing people coming and going, and they seem to be laughing and interacting with each other, and they seem filled with life. And I have this thought of, Torie, if you leave right now, which you can, you won't have left accomplishing what you came here to accomplish. But I want you all to know, I don't know what I was there to accomplish. I just knew if I left in that moment, I wouldn't have done it. And so that infamous AA prayer that we talk about of God, please help me, mine looked something like this. God, everything I think I know about life, I clearly don't know. Everything I think I know about me, I clearly don't know. If I want a chance at this thing we call life, I'm going to have to be like a newborn baby. Learn how to walk, learn their ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, dogs go wolf, cows go moo. This is the color pink. And so I called my mom and I made the decision to stay. And shortly after that, because my sobriety date is in July, we were able to go and walk the courtyard. And so I'm walking in the courtyard and I find this place to sit down, and I'm sitting on this bench and I look around me and there are so many bumblebees. Like not just 1 or 2, but like so many bumblebees to the point where I felt like I was in like a bumblebee planetarium. And that feeling from my first drink, that feeling of I could breathe, the next time I experienced that feeling was right there in that moment, in that courtyard, when I'm sitting there, when I made the decision to stay at that facility. And all my feelings were followed with the thought of everything is going to be okay. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that was going to look like. I certainly didn't know I was going to join Alcoholics Anonymous or decide to be sober, right? And I'd like to tell you all that when I left rehab, I did everything that they told me to do, but please, there's still so much Torie up in here that was just not the case. So, right, they're telling me that, okay, when I leave here, I'm going to go to outpatient and all this, and I'm smiling, and I'm saying, yes, okay, thank you, but internally, I'm like, I'm not going, right, because I think I have a better idea. My idea is I'm going to move to Florida with my dad, because who doesn't want to be in Florida with my dad, and the Miami Dolphins are in Florida. That felt like a perfect plan. But see, here's the thing, right? I leave rehab, I'm as physically sober as I will ever be. I leave rehab understanding the part of the problem, the physical part of the problem. But see, I'm missing 2 other really important parts of that equation. I'm missing the part that the real problem is in my mind, and I'm missing the solution. If I thought looking in the mirror right before I got help, right before I got physically sober was hard, if I thought that fear that I experienced was challenging right before I got sober was hard, looking in the mirror physically sober with no new solution for the problem of Torie, with my mind running rampant, is a pain I don't wish upon my worst enemy. So against my will, I came back to Baltimore, Towson. And I had gone to one AA meeting prior to Florida, so I knew where to go when I came back. And I walk up to this meeting, and this is probably the one and only time that my people-pleasing played out as a strength in my life, because there was a co-ed meeting and there was a women's meeting going on, and women and young people, everything that I am, scare me. So I had made the decision that I was going to go to the co-ed meeting, but there was this woman standing outside, and I walked up and she said, "Hey Torie, it's so good to see you, welcome back." And that was the first time I truly felt seen. And she said, "There's a women's meeting upstairs and you should come. We'd love to have you." And I say that that's probably the one time my people-pleasing played out as a strength, because I couldn't say no. I was too afraid. So I said, okay, sure, sounds great. But meanwhile, I'm terrified inside, you guys. And I go upstairs and I walk into this room. And when I walk into the room, I see these women, and these women are still a part of my life today. These women are still sober today. These women are like pillars of my sobriety and my recovery today. I would not be where I am today without them and without their love. And they were laughing, and they were talking, and they were filled with life, and they knew each other. Like, they really knew each other. Just like they were talking about birthdays and their husbands and their families. And oh my gosh, I wanted to be a part of it so bad. And that right there is a truly first step to experience. Those group of women just being themselves, right? They talk about this program as attraction rather than promotion. Those women made this program and this solution look so attractive by just being them, by just laughing, by just having a good old time as a result of working these steps that, my gosh, I wanted a piece of it too. And I thought that maybe, just maybe, if it worked for them, that it could work for me. But see, what happens is I have this struggle. Because I come in feeling like a naked cat that wants to rip whatever remaining skin is on my body off. And I would like to crawl into a hole and sit in fetal position in the corner because I'm so uncomfortable in my own skin that I can't stand being around anybody. And I'm absolutely filled with every form of self-centered fear you could possibly imagine. Because I don't know how to just be in a room. That concept is very foreign to me. And I see these women, right, and they're like dressed so well and they're so happy and they're laughing and I can't, it's hard sometimes, right, when you come in and I see women and people within the program, I see them where they're at in that moment. But thank gosh for this thought that I had where it says, there's no way these women, Torie, went out, partied, had the time of their life, and then woke up the next morning and thought, that was the best night ever, let's go get sober and join Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, they probably didn't come in here on a winning streak themselves. And so that was enough for me to listen to what they told me. Get a sponsor, okay. Work the steps, okay. Be of service, okay. And I'll tell you all, right, when my life got better, it got good. And right around my first year, all of a sudden I started to feel like coming to meetings was like pulling teeth. And all of a sudden, everything I felt that I was enjoying, I was no longer enjoying, and it became a chore because, you know, I'm not getting my monthly chips anymore now that I've celebrated a year, and people aren't clapping and woohooing for Torie, yay 2 months, yay 3 months, right? And they're not texting me to be like, hey, are you going to this meeting? Do you want me to pick you up? Like, all of a sudden, I have to hold myself accountable, and I have to be the one to carry the message now, right? And I'll tell you is that God always shows up for me where I'm at. And so God started bringing women into my life to share what had been shared with me right around that time. And I can tell you all, and I stand by this very, very strongly, is that as long as I have lived in step 12, from that moment on, I have not asked myself the question of now what, what's next, what's left, ever since. They talk about willingness here in this program, and it's a beautiful word, it really is, right? I love the definition of a change in attitude, but what does it mean to actually live that willingness? For me, what that looks like is saying yes to an H&I commitment, and I don't know how long or far away it is from my house until I Google it and see that it's over an hour away. For me, the willingness is when I see that they scheduled a Dolphins playoff game during my home group, and I have the thought that, Torie, I've worked so hard in AA, I can skip this and go watch the Dolphins play, but then I said, and I went to my home group. I wore my Tula socks and my Dolphins jersey, of course, but I still went to my home group. I live a life beyond my wildest dreams today, and we hear that said a lot. And at first when I came in and I heard that saying, to me what I thought was, oh my gosh, this is really great. What this means is that I'm going to get a pink Range Rover and I'm going to get glitter on it, so when the light hit it, it sparkles, and I'm going to get a suite at the Dolphins Stadium, and then I'm going to ask them somehow if I can just live in it and turn it into an apartment, because what better view in the mornings than like Dolphins Stadium, you know, and like that's what I thought a life beyond my wildest dreams was. It was everything in the third dimension. The book talks about being rocketed into the fourth dimension, right? And for me, I can kind of compare the third dimension and the fourth dimension like to a 3D and a 4D movie. A 3D movie, I put on some cool glasses and like things pop out at the screen at me and I can see it, right, in the whole 9 yards. But a 4D movie If, say, there's like a volcano, right, they might shake my seat so I can feel it. Or maybe a wave crashes upon the sand and then they're going to sprinkle water throughout the whole movie theater so I can feel it. I never thought that it was possible to experience anything on a deep level of feeling things or experiencing things, and so I never wasted any time or energy thinking about those things. Because, so when I say I live a life beyond my wildest dreams today, I mean that in the most literal sense possible. That I have dreams today and I can take action to do my best to make them a reality. I feel every feeling in the book. Some of them I do not enjoy as much as others, but I feel them. And I'll tell you all this story because this to me is one of the most powerful examples of Alcoholics Anonymous and the power of God. And I say God, but it's just because it just rolls off the tongue easier. For me, a big association of my higher power is the feeling of love. I don't believe that my higher power is a being per se. I think for me, from my experience, the second I start to try and imagine what my higher power looks like, I'm putting my higher power in a box, and I'm putting conditions on my higher power that is something much greater than me and I will never truly understand, and I don't really want to, honestly. But I like the feeling of love today. And so I'll tell you this story, right? I'm your stereotypical daddy's girl. You take my face, you might as well put it right next to the picture. Take my picture and put it right next to the word in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. The greatest gifts my dad ever gave me was being physically and emotionally present for every moment of my life. 2 years ago, right around when the pandemic hit, my dad moved back up from Florida to live with my family, which is like a really cool thing. And but because he was still a resident in Florida, he would drive down every so often for doctor's appointments and to take care of some things down there. And there was one day in particular where my dad was driving down, and I realized that I hadn't heard from him. And so I slowed down and I texted him, and I didn't hear back from him. And I say the 3rd, 7th, and 11th step prayer every morning and every night. And this one night in particular, when I said the 3rd, 7th, and 11th step prayer, I ended it with, God, please make sure that my dad gets home safely. Now, see, one of the greatest things this program has taught me is that when I say things like that, when I surrender my loved ones, and when I surrender situations, when I surrender my life, I surrender the outcomes too. And I'd be lying if what I said when I say to you all that what I meant by that was, God, please make sure that my dad gets home to this physical address where I live in Towson, Maryland, with me in one piece. But see, right after that prayer, what happens is I get a call from the sheriff down there, and I pick up that phone call, and the sheriff informs me that my dad had passed away. My dad was involved in a 6-car accident. He was the second to last vehicle in the accident, and not only was he the only one to pass away, but he was the only one to experience any form of injury. I can tell you all right now that in the past, prior to having this program in my life and these principles in my life, I would have asked why. But see, when I take steps 1, 2, and 3, I remove words like that from my vocabulary. Why, when, who, where, how. Any idea or understanding of a higher power, I would have turned my back on. And not only that, but that would have became my next golden ticket to use and drink the way that I wanted to. But instead, the thought that I had was, my dad did make it home safely, and home is now heaven. If that's not Alcoholics Anonymous and a power greater than yourself working in your life, I don't really know what is. Because I want you all to know that was my greatest fear on my first fear inventory. I knew the day would come. That's life, right? I'm a firm believer that what happens in my life is not, associated with God's will or a higher power's will. That's just life, because life happens. And sometimes life is in session, and sometimes life really hurts. And sometimes life is filled with pain. My higher power's will is, what do I do with it? I had a sponsee who walked through something relatively similar, a different immediate family member, shortly after I walked through that, and I was able to use my experience that helped me to share with her to help her. And my sponsor walked through something with her daughter prior to me walking through what I walked through with my dad, and she shared with me her experience of what helped her and kept her in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's what helped me. And that's my higher power's will. Helping one another, showing up for one another, loving one another, and let me just be a little more compassionate and try and be a little more understanding and a little more patient each and every day. And I want you all to know, right, like my brother and I, we would have these trips to go visit my dad down in Florida, and we would miss the flights because of me, because I thought, due to drinking, that you can pack 30 minutes before your flight takes off when you leave 45 minutes from the airport. That's great logic, Torie. And we would miss the flights, and it would cause a lot of uproar between my brother and I. But see, what happens is my dad passes away, my brother and I, we got to fly down together and bring my dad home. And my family, right, they weren't even worried about me and when it came to like relapsing or anything like that because of you all. And they said to my brother and suggested to him that he might go see a therapist when this all happened. And he said, I don't need a therapist, I have Torie. Which that in itself is a little concerning in all honesty, but really, because, it's some real, like I said, guys, really questionable things happen. It still does today. Removed from the solution. If I don't wake up and I don't put God in the center, really questionable things happen. But I'll never forget having this thought that I just had a new commander-in-chief in my angel army, and it was my dad. And this fear that I had of the day when my dad would pass on, right? This fear of like, what am I going to do? Because, sometimes I have these thoughts of like, what would have to happen in life to take me out of AA? What would have to happen in life to take me out for me to turn to that drink? And that honestly was at the top of the list. And then I lived through that event, and my faith in a higher power deepens. I have the exact opposite experience of what I think was going to happen. And that's something that only can be due to Alcoholics Anonymous in this program. And I'll tell you, I had to do a really intense inventory around this because I was really resentful. I was resentful towards the person driving the first vehicle. I was resentful towards the people that lived. I was resentful towards women that still had their dad. So when they do get married, they can get their dad to walk them down the aisle. Trust me, I've covered it all. And I played defense attorney against myself in column 4 because I wanted freedom. I thought I knew what freedom was, right, when I was out there drinking. But I didn't learn true freedom until I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. What I was experiencing when I was out there drinking was relief. And someone shared with me that the pain that I'd be experiencing when it comes to stuff with my dad may be a testament of the love that we share and the relationship we share, right? And I think that that's the coolest thing, where I can stand here and I can share this experience with you, and I don't want you all to, trust me, it's a beautiful story. And there's random moments when I cry, and there's moments where it's really hard, but I don't ever feel the need to pick up a drink or a drug over it. I just miss my dad. That's it. And I get to be a sister today, right? And I get to be, I think one of the things, right, that happened is my mom and I, we always had like a really challenging relationship. For no real reason in particular. I think that's just what happens with moms and daughters. I don't really know. I can't figure it out. But we always joke that my brother's my mom's favorite and I was my dad's favorite. My mom doesn't like that joke, but we still make it. And my mom and I have become so close. And like the other day I was having a really challenging time, and my mom was the only one that was able to make me laugh. And see, that's not because, and I'm not saying my mom has changed or she hasn't changed. I don't know, right? I just know I don't have control over that today. But what I do know is that I have changed. I have had spiritual experiences as a result of this program that has allowed me to change and has allowed me to be more loving. And there was this one time in particular where my brother, he was with my mom and my dad somewhere, and he stormed off. I'll never forget. And he was all upset about something, and he called me, and we talked it out, and then he returned back to my mom and my dad, and later on in the evening I saw my mom, and my mom had said to me, "Did you talk to Colby earlier today?" And I said, "Yes, I did." "Why?" And she says, "Because he stormed off so angry, but he came back so calm, and I knew the only person that could have that effect on him was you." And I share all this with you today because when I was drinking, I was the definition, like I touched on at the beginning of my share, of pain. I was a liability. I wasn't someone that people wanted around. My best friend at the time asked me, right when I was about 4 months sober, to be a bridesmaid in her wedding. And, I thought, this is when I was working 6 and 7 formally for the very first time. And so I thought, wow, Torie, that must mean you're a great friend, because I'm so used to putting my self-worth as a person in the hands of other people. And right shortly after, she took it back, and I was so offended, and I was like, well, I'm single, but when I get married, she ain't even a bridesmaid. She's not even invited anymore. How dare she do something like that, right? Because I really was just seeking external validation for my self-worth as a friend. And so when she took it back of me being a bridesmaid, I just took it so personal and was so offended. But then when I paused and I realized that, Torie, no, it makes complete sense. She did that. How many times when I was out there in active alcoholism did I tell her, yeah, I'm going to drive down to Delaware. I'll be there for your 21st birthday. And I just no-showed. How many times did I tell her, like, yeah, I'll be there for you. I'll be there for your family. And I just didn't show. Getting married is a pretty big deal. Being a bridesmaid in someone's wedding is a true honor. No wonder she took it back. I was 4 months sober. She couldn't depend on me. But I can tell you today that her and I were just texting about it earlier, and she actually asked me if I could make a living out of Alcoholics Anonymous because I love this program so much. She's an earthling. She doesn't understand that that's not a thing, But she has a little boy today who I get to call my nephew, and she had him through IVF, and her embryo transfer date was on my birthday, and she texted me because she viewed that as a love letter from the universe. I can tell you all that prior to this program and before this relationship was amended through this process that we have here in the steps, there is no way that my birthday being her embryo transfer date would have been a love letter from the universe. She would have been like, please change that right now. So I just share all these experiences with you really to share one thing, and that's that this program does work, and that a higher power is real. And I came in with this idea that my higher power was my grandmother in heaven. And I still hold true that she's part of my angel army, and now my dad is too. But I think that the coolest thing is that it took so much to get me in here. And I will never be so sober that I won't go back out and pick up again, because that's my natural response. My natural response to life is not, let me sit with my feelings, let me pray, let me meditate, let me inventory and look at where Torie is wrong. No, my natural response to life is, oh my gosh, I'm breathing, I need something to help me escape immediately. But today I can show up and I can live this life today, right? Where I can do my best and then I can try to do better tomorrow. And I can say, well, I did that good today, but maybe let me try a little bit more. And I can see things like that bumblebee on that stone, and I can feel the presence of my grandmother sitting out there, and I can just have this feeling of everything's okay. Or when I'm out at the grocery store yesterday and I run into a friend in the parking lot and I don't feel that fear of like, oh my gosh, I need to run and I don't want them to see me, but instead I get to run up and go give them a big old hug. My higher power shows up where I need my higher power, and my higher power shows up in a way that speaks true to me and catches my attention. My experience with my higher power is as individualized as it needs to be, as I hope your experience with your higher power is. And the way we find that and are able to tap into that source, at least for me, is through this book, is through great sponsorship, and is through these steps. My sponsor, she loves calling me out on my nonsense. I remember, I'll end with this, is I called her one time and I told her this story. I was very stressed out about boy-related stuff. And, she starts talking to me about waffles and spaghetti in response. And I'm a little irritated. I'm like, did you not just hear what I said to you, And she sorry to the men, you might feel offended by this, sorry. That's my disclaimer. She says, Torie, men are like waffles. You know, like if you have, like, you eat a waffle and they all have little squares and you want butter and syrup in each little square perfectly. She's like, that's like men. They like to be in one square at a time. She's like, but us women, we're like spaghetti, right? We're all over the place. I can think about doing the laundry. The dogs are at home. I got to walk them. I got to take care of this, you know, all at once. And I expect other people in my life to be like spaghetti too, because I'm like spaghetti. And so I say all that because if I was to share this story, right, or if anybody else was to communicate about comparing humans and how we operate to food like waffles and spaghetti, it's similar to reading more about alcoholism. If you're a non-alcoholic, you probably are like, what the heck is going on in here? But I can talk about these really cool experiences, and I can have these really awesome relationships today with other women, with other men, with other people in this program, and I just get to show up and I just get to try a little bit harder to be a little more loving, a little more compassionate, a little more patient. And I just pray that if I keep doing what I'm asked to do, that the willingness to actually live that willingness will forever remain within me. I don't ever want to lose that. Because while I may have recovered from working these 12 steps, it doesn't mean I'm bulletproof. It doesn't mean this disease won't get me again. And there are days where I'm physically sober and I'm just not doing the best thing here because I just haven't brought my higher power into a situation well enough. But the moral of the story so far, and from my findings and my experiences, is that Alcoholics Anonymous works, love is real, and so is a higher power. And I'm very grateful to be here. I think I'm at like 50 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up. I just want to say thank you so much for letting me share, and thank you again for having me, guys. I'm super grateful to be here and to have been with you all this evening.
Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Brian. I'm an alcoholic. First and foremost, I want to thank Torie for coming out here, doing an incredible job, sharing her experience with us. A couple quick announcements, and we'll wrap up the meeting here. Again, the food and the fellowship for this group starts at 8 o'clock every week, so feel free to show up early, join us, enjoy the refreshments we put out. If you do want to get involved with this group, we have service positions available. You know, there's a lot of moving parts that go into making this meeting happen every week, so if you want to join, become a group member, show up early, see any group member. This group has hospital and institutions commitments. We do a commitment up in a treatment center in Quakertown, a running commitment. So if you'd be interested in coming out there, it's pretty low pressure, informal. If you want to come out tomorrow night, we're there every Sunday. You can again see me, see any group member if you want more information on that. What else? We got our hoodies available on display stage left here. We got our Conscious Contact and Big Book hoodies available. So if you want to pick up some swag, you know, you can see any group member after the meeting. They're available for a charitable donation. It's always the meeting after the meeting. So if you're out there and if you're new or if you're struggling, hang out with us after the meeting. We'd love to talk with you, get you some phone numbers, get you some information on some meetings, and really get you involved in the solution here. It's customary for us to thank our speakers as they come here on their own time and expense, so we usually do form a line in the front here, and we thank our speakers personally. Thanks to everybody for helping out with the meeting tonight, everybody who helped set up, Ms. Kay for helping out in the kitchen, our greeters, our readers, and most importantly, let's thank our speaker, Torie, one more time. And if you do care to join us, we have a beautiful way of closing. We'll circle up here. We're circling up again now. We are allowed to do that again. And if you do care to join us, we will close the meeting down with a brief moment of silence for the still sick and suffering alcoholic inside and outside of these rooms, followed by our Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into